Welcome to the MS&Me Radio Network, a division of the Multiple Sclerosis Global Support Network. The following program broadcast is an original creation by the broadcast entity. Discussion within the following broadcast should be used for informational purposes only and is not a substitute for professional medical advice or consultation. Before considering application of any broadcast content in the following program, please consult your healthcare provider. If you feel you are having a medical emergency, please contact your local health services for immediate assistance. MS&Me Media and the Multiple Sclerosis Global Support Network do not guarantee or warrant the accuracy of information in the broadcast to follow. The Multiple Sclerosis Global Support Network provisions broadcast services to program hosts. Information discussed in the broadcast does not necessarily reflect the views, opinions, or goals of the network and are solely those of the show broadcast host. Should you wish to host a broadcast, please visit our website at msmemedia.com and submit a request to become a program host. We thank you for listening to the MS&Me Radio Network. Enjoy the show.
Welcome back to Positively Different MS, a show that focuses on the positives that life has left us with. Life has given us, and the positives that are often around us and we cannot always see them, no matter what our circumstances are and where life has taken us. This is a show that shares positive thoughts, positive tips, and is always looking to find new ways forward to support us in our journey through life, with or without MS. My debut book, Born Together, published in May this year, shares my journey and how I changed my life and my MS journey through positivity and first and foremost through my mental attitude. Born Together is gathering reader feedback that surpasses my expectations. Readers with or without MS are finding it a great source of positivity mixed with honesty and realism that they can connect with. Born Together is uplifting, and my biggest compliment from a reader yet was that Born Together offers the true definition of hope. It is not false hope or unrealistic hope. It is not unreachable for ordinary people. It is not the fact that everything will be fixed or cured in the end. It is not just about having enough money to throw at the problem. Instead, it is real and gritty and painfully honest. Born Together has hands-on and practical ways to overturn what may seem your destiny and shows the reader how the most adverse of situations can still be alright and you can still achieve and have a good life with or without MS, and no matter your adversity. If you just take action, change your attitude, change your thinking, adapt and adapt some more, you can then change your life and the path that is in front of you. I mention all of that because it would be difficult to achieve any of it on your own. Yes, it does start with you, but then we all need some support. This week's show looks at the support all around us and who we can go to, who we can seek support from and make contact with, and how to share some of our journey and meet our needs together. The key here is to ask for support. That's not something that came naturally to me, so it may take some time, but until you do ask, you may find yourself stuck and unable to move forward. My family is my first and main line of support. There are a few close friends, but only a few. I like to keep things simple and get on with doing the best job I can, so I rely on myself to research and find out as much information on how I can help myself. Hence there was the birth of my MS Jigsaw. Part of that jigsaw for everyone is medical care. Most people with MS have a neurologist, and with that goes MRI scans, disease-modifying drugs and other supports. I have not taken the neurological route, or should I say, in fact, it did not take me. At my second appointment with a consultant neurologist in Glasgow, only weeks after my diagnosis, he asked me if I was ready to start the disease-modifying drugs course, as they came with serious side effects, which were explained to me, and I had a young baby at home at the time to care for. I explained the obvious really, that I could not in fact take those drugs, as when those side effects kicked in and made me sick, with flu-like symptoms, there was no one else to look after my baby. The side effects were continuous, so I could not possibly look after a small baby at the same time as having flu-like symptoms. The consultant then put it to me that the neurology department was very busy and they had a waiting list. He said that I didn't need to attend again. He did say it was my decision, but I felt so rejected, and it felt such an unpleasant ending to an already difficult situation that I simply nodded and left. So that is how I ended up on the self-help and self-discovery road I am still on today. I do believe that everything happens for a reason, and that the self-help and alternative route that I am on is more suited to me, and life without side effects has definitely worked for me. Saying all of that, I have a truly excellent general doctor's practice at New Hills Practice in Glasgow. It was my GP, Dr. Lindsay, who referred me to counselling with Alan McNeil, who you heard from last week. Dr. Lindsay also referred me to the Centre for Integrative Care in Glasgow, where I saw a homeopathic doctor, a Dr. Leckridge, who worked with me for over a year, rerouting my path and looking at all my health needs, physical and emotional. I am very blessed and grateful to be part of New Health Practice and the support they offer, as well as the wider health service available here in Scotland. So my tiers of support are firstly my good self and my MS Jigsaw. And for more information on that, it is available at my website patriciageigen.com. Then there is my immediate family who work tirelessly to support me with MS, with the third tier being my doctor's practice and all the supports that they link me in with, which includes counselling, homeopathy and physiotherapy. It seems a good time now to hand over to Margaret Ann, talking with my GP, Dr. Lindsay, about her role and the support for people with MS and ways forward.
Well, I'd like to thank you, Dr. Lindsay, for inviting us along to New Hills Practice here in Glasgow. Patricia's got a few questions that she would like to put to you.
No problem.
So, how do you see your role in supporting Patricia with her multiple sclerosis as her GP?
Well, patients with MS obviously have a chronic condition and it really does require a multidisciplinary approach. I think the GP's role is crucial in recognising, obviously referring patients with syndromes likely to be caused by their MS, but also the GP has a role maintaining and helping to monitor treatment and in supporting and coordinating ongoing care for patients with this chronic disabling condition. So essentially, I think the GP has a very important role to play, but it's a multidisciplinary approach. The management has to be adopted between the GP in primary care and colleagues in secondary care. For example, the neurologists, who are obviously the specialists that make the diagnosis initially, they work together closely with specialised MS nurses, OTs, dietitians, social workers, and obviously all the other specialists in secondary care are needed at various times in the management of this chronic condition. In many ways, GPs do act as a gatekeeper for NHS specialists, but the whole GP approach, I think, is very similar to Patricia's. In her book refers to her MS Jigsaw, and that struck a chord with me reading the novel, because on one level I would think paralleling that is that the GP has an important role in helping to make up her jigsaw, although she's doing a lot of that, she's doing all of that on her own. But I can see a parallel with what the GP does and a role that the GP plays there.
And so in that, what advice do you offer and give someone when they're diagnosed with this type of chronic condition?
I think it's important for the GP to consider the patient with chronic conditions, whether it's MS, whether it's COPD, even diabetes, all the chronic disease management, heart disease. We've got to look at the patient holistically, and I think that's really, really important, because it's not just the physical, but it's the psychological and the social impact of the chronic condition on the individual has to be considered. Most chronic conditions depression, fatigue, pain are all very common symptoms that a patient will present with, and these symptoms should be actively sought by the GP and addressed appropriately. Patients obviously with complex needs should be considered for onward referral for rehabilitation, or we have the Centre for Integrative Care, which can be very useful for certain patients as well. Pain clinics can be very useful, as can psychological input is crucial, which encompasses the counselling, mindfulness and the CBT, which I know have been very, very helpful for many patients. Notwithstanding all of that, I think it's important in chronic illness to consider the impact that the chronic illness is having on the patient's carers, the patient's families and relationship the patient is having, because the condition impacts not just on the patient, although we are seeing the patient, but it's the impact that that condition is having on everybody else in the patient's lives and how they're coping with the condition. So I think when someone's diagnosed from the outset, it is, again, Patricia talks about very eloquently about her MS journey. It is a journey. Not everybody likes that term, but I think it fits. It does actually fit, and that we as GPs have that very important role that you are with the patient for the longevity. You're not just seeing them a snapshot, whether it be for an outpatient clinic appointment or a course of treatment. The GPs are a very important pivotal role because they're really on the same journey with the patient.
Indeed, and I suppose that's the thing. What support would you give a person with a long-term health condition like that to actually stay positive and be, I suppose, proactive in managing their situation?
I think there's a few things here. I think it's important to gauge how much information the patient is actually able to process at any given time.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, none of us have crystal balls and we don't know how things are necessarily going to play out, but you can have an idea about difficulties that a person with chronic conditions is going to encounter. I think encouragement to live as healthy and active a lifestyle is very, very important. I know even kind of reading over notes, having a good healthy diet, focusing on diet. In MS, particularly linoleic acid high diets are recommended, and that's an important thing to discuss.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, exercise is important. If people are smokers, they shouldn't smoke, general advice. But I think counselling can be it's a journey people are often on, and they will need support. Psychologically is equally as important as physically.
As a GP, is there anything that you would share with the listeners to support people with sort of day-to-day challenges in life when they are facing adversity?
I think this is a difficult question because we're all, as a GP, I think you have to, again, back to the crucial thing, which is listening and being empathetic. How is this affecting this person? I think it's important, if the patient doesn't feel isolated with what their particular concern or difficulty, I think isolation magnifies so many problems that people encounter. So obviously there's support groups. Is it something that maybe the MS Society or Revived, one of the charities, is that something that a patient would be interested in? I would have that discussion. Another thing that I always, in a personal level, is surround yourself with positivity, positive people. I think that can get you a lot further than we realise. And if you're positive, you're positive. But I think if you surround yourself with positive people, follow as healthy a lifestyle as you can. Encourage that they're not alone, they're not isolated, there is help out there is groups out there. It's not for everybody, but I think if you're isolated with adversity, it's so much more difficult to cope with.
Thank you for
No
your
problem.
time and
It's
your
a pleasure.
positive energy as well. Thank you, Dr. Lindsay.
You're welcome.
Thank you for that insight, Dr. Lindsay, and for all the support you have given me, particularly your time and your practice to always treat me holistically. There is not only me, however, on this journey. There is Ellie and Alan too, from my immediate family, who need to be heard and have support. Ellie has had his own thoughts and feelings about Mum having MS to understand and comes to terms with, as part of growing up. His GP, Dr. Goldie, at the same New Health practice, is a super advocate and even better listener to children and their needs. Margaret Ann also went along and spoke to him about the role of the family GP and how we can work together to find ways forward and support each other. We'll go over to hear from him now.
Welcome, Dr. Goldie. Thank you so much for agreeing to be on the show today.
It's an honour.
So, Patricia's very aware of the support that family members need in relation to her MS, and she sees you, Dr. Goldie, as an excellent advocate and support for this role, especially for her son Elliot. What can people do who have these long-term conditions to get the necessary support?
It's hard. It's hard for MD when you've got any long-term condition. It's challenging. It's something that you face up to uncertainty at times, and there's also you read horror stories on the internet, and if you met other people who maybe get more severe end of the scale, you begin to think, is that the way I'm going to end up? So I think uncertainty is a very difficult part, and I think really if we can help share knowledge and point people in the right direction to get some understanding of their condition, I think that's a great help for them. And I think that's a role we have, is like pointing people in the right direction, helping them to access resources, and also give them advice from our experience as well. And I think it's helping people to learn more about their condition and learn more about the reality of their condition that helps reduce the uncertainty. And I think people deal better when they know something, when they're more certain about what's going to happen or what's happening, or as certain as they can be, and less afraid of what might happen when it might not happen at all.
Yeah.
So I think it's important that people get as much understanding of the condition as they can.
Well, and I know that Patricia wonders about the children, because obviously they're a big factor in it,
Yep.
and where they should go
Yep.
to take their worries if their mum or dad has a chronic illness.
Absolutely. Well, the first thing I would say is really what's so important there is what's important in all families. The ideal would be communication again. People have to talk to the children, and they have to encourage the children to talk about their thoughts, their feelings, and help them with their curiosity, because their children are actually curious. It's a wonderful thing that should be fostered. Mm-hmm. And when they're curious, answer the questions, make time, encourage them, have time set aside, maybe, possibly daily, maybe over a meal or even some time where you just sit and talk to them. Mm-hmm. And I think when you talk to your children, you develop relationships, you establish this ethos where people can happily discuss in the family member and talk about things that are affecting them. Too much of the sort of, stiff upper lip, don't talk, let's not talk to the children about anything, widen it out to like sex education. I mean, there's no wonder there's many problems with, in the past, but still is with, and teenage pregnancies, things. Part of it's because we don't talk. Yeah. And I think it's important, and children are fantastic. Yeah. At being able to understand and also have insights that sometimes, I've listened to Elliot, for example, with insights into his mum illness, and I've gone, my jaw's dropped, and I thought, I never thought of that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. One of my favourite things is when Patricia was speaking about how do you feel when I wobble sometimes. Mm-hmm. He actually says, well, that's your trademark, Mum. So he's seen it as a positive.
I do. My mother had severe depression and was hospitalised on numerous occasions, and she had episodes throughout her. And it was never really discussed. And that was wrong. I mean, we should have been able to talk about it, and it was never really, it was there, but it was never out in the open. And I think it's much healthier when you talk to the children, make them aware and explain things to them, and allow them to ask about their mother or their father's health, or because they know. They're observing, and they're well aware of what's going on. They might not be able to put it into words or use terms for it, but they know what's going on, and I think they'll deal with it better when it's explained to them.
Yeah, and it goes back to your first point about opening the channels of communication.
Communication. I mean, we are all in relationship. That's, as human beings, we are social creatures. We are all in relationship. In fact, the whole universe and is all about relationships, and that's where it's important. Open the channels of communication, form the relationships. That's what's important. It's the relationships often, the relationship between the individual who has the condition and, say, their partner, their children, their families, their wider families, their friends, their GPs, their hospital consultants, their practice nurses, etc. These are the important thing. These relationships are what's important, because it's feeling the trust and being able to come and feel relaxed and to be able to talk to your doctor, your nurse, but talk to you as a person, talk to you as someone who you're in relationship with, and it's not all one-sided. It's not, I'm seen as some font of knowledge, because the first thing I'll admit is I don't know everything about MS, and I never will. And Patricia probably knows more about MS than I do. Certainly, having read her book, I found it very illuminating. I learned an awful lot about, not just about illness, but what it was like to live with the illness, the implications of it, effects it had on everyone. I just found it a really illuminating, informative, and quite humbling book.
Thank you for that, and just to say that Patricia's always found the surgery to be very accessible and very supportive. So, and just building on what you said about communication, is there anything that you would share with the listeners to support people in the sort of day-to-day challenges in life when facing adversity?
You're not alone. That's the first thing, you're not alone. And one thing I often find as well is that people who are supporting you, like close family, friends, they feel that they're not doing anything. Oh, but they are. Just by listening, giving someone a listening ear, allow them to talk about it, encourage them to talk about it, be there for them. This is really, that relationship, that communication, that is what really is the main thing I think that people give, and it's so underrated, just that aspect.
Well, I'd like to thank you. Thanks a lot, Dr. Goldie, for that. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Goldie. You play an important role in family life, and it gives the family great confidence to have you around and to have you on board. Remember, support is an essential part of our journey, and we all need to look at what we need to help us in our individual journey, with or without MS. Don't be afraid to ask for help. Look for support. It may be medical, a counsellor, a therapist, simply going earthing, giving time to developing a healthy diet, taking some time for yourself. There is no better starting point than looking at creating your own MS jigsaw to find the right support that works for you. You will find this with or without MS. We all have something to deal with in life, so whether it's an MS jigsaw or a life jigsaw, it can help you, and don't be afraid to ask and look for that support and take that first step. And now for this week's positive. It's simple. Ask about yourself and what you need. Find ways, think of ways, things to do, things to see that will make you feel happy and maybe good about yourself. Because finding happiness and contentment on the inside is the key to moving forward. Then you can cope with what happens on the outside. I have never been a materialistic person, but for many years I thought that going places, doing things, being in a nice environment were the things to make me feel good. I didn't really think about it ever being down to me to make myself feel happy. But since life changed through multiple sclerosis, and I no longer go to as many places, eat out as much, go to cafes, bars and such like. Now I spend more of my time at home, mostly writing and working at my kitchen table. So now it is down to me to feel good on the inside, as I don't have access to the things that I used to enjoy and be entertained by. That means a whole different ballgame, lifestyle and attitude. But I am now able to feel happy with this very minimalistic lifestyle. It is like I have got to know myself again, understand myself, and I really respect who I am now. In harder times, I will try to be kind to myself too, to do something nice, maybe cook, have a glass of Prosecco, read a book, watch a film or a documentary. Maybe I'll earth in my garden, practice some yoga or qigong. But give it some thought about ways you could find for yourself and what route you could take to feel happy and content within yourself. It's really worth having a go and trying, because as soon as you can find contentment inside yourself, then the rest of life will become a lot easier. Think of small things to do that you enjoy and that could be a starting point to contentment within yourself. This week's inspirational quote is from Helen Keller. Alone we can do so little. Together we can do so much. Thank you everyone for listening, and a big thank you to my return listeners. I'll leave you with the thought that we are all on a journey together towards positive change in our lives. We can all benefit from a life jigsaw that holds the pieces we need to move from the place we are in to the place we want to be in. Take time to work out what pieces you need to help you move closer to the place you want to be in. You absolutely owe that to yourself at least. Next week we will look at a spinal approach to health and interview Rebecca Hamilton of Edinburgh Napier University, who is currently undertaking research commissioned by Medical Research Scotland into the spinal approach to health, which incorporates physiotherapy and robophysio from Chong-Soo Lee. Next week will also be the last of the first block of 10 shows on my MS jigsaw, which will now repeat as I take some time to focus on my own health, well-being and my writing. I will return with the next block of my MS jigsaw at New Year. Until next week's show, I send you positive thoughts always, and remember, together we can find a way.